Good morning. I'm Ryan Klempner, Vice Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. The time is 9:08 on October 10th, 2025. I'm calling to order today's regular meeting of the board. We are meeting in person this morning with commissioners, staff, and members of the public in attendance. We have a quorum with 4 commissioners present. Video of today's meeting is being streamed live online. The link to watch today's meeting is on the Housing Commission's website at www.sdhc.org. To accommodate additional members of the public who may wish to participate in today's meeting, we have set up an overflow room down the hall. Live streaming of today's meeting will be shown in the overflow room. Speaker slips are available in the overflow room for members of the public who wish to provide comments to the board today. Our staff will bring those speaker slips to me here in the board room. At the appropriate time, our staff will also escort speakers from the overflow room to make sure they are able to provide their comments to the board in person today. Members of the public here in the boardroom or in the overflow room who wish to provide comments to the board will need to complete a speaker slip in the boardroom. Please submit your speaker slip to our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, who is standing at the side of the room. That's in the boardroom. In the overflow room, submit your speaker slips to our communications staff in the room. In a moment, I will be proposing that Agenda Item 101 be placed on the consent agenda for today's meeting. Members of the public may provide comments about the items on the consent agenda by submitting a speaker slip for that item before the board considers the consent agenda. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit the gold speaker slip. To speak in opposition to any agenda item, please submit the pink speaker slip. Those who wish to address the board about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker slip. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments about agenda items or non-agenda public comment. However, if a large number of people wish to provide non-agenda public comments or speak on a single agenda item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. Now is the time for non-agenda public comments. We will begin with Joy.
Excuse me, just real quick here. Appreciate that, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day. So glad to be here with all of you. Joy Senyata, District 3. I'm going to repeat the non-agenda public comment from Monday's special meeting on the strategic plan because I think it's worth repeating. So I am honored to participate in the San Diego Housing Commission Strategic Plan Committee meeting. Here's what I have to offer you. I am not a policy wonk, yet I do know that policies are the fabric we use to weave our governments together on a federal level, on a state level, on a city level, and of course on a commission level. Since January of this year, government has changed, updated, and even deleted many of its policies. Part of the challenge of it all is that which policies will be affected is a moving target. So, and in addition to that, there are politics involved. So it becomes difficult to see the forest for the trees. On a personal level, I am doing the best I can. My anchor is, in all of this, my anchor is resiliency. Resiliency. Thank you, CEO President Lisa Jones. Love your focus on resiliency. So as I address this committee, I want to add this. Listen up here. This is good. The San Diego Housing Commission has over 300 employees and an FY26 budget of about $716 million. And of course, we have our Board of Commissioners. As a public, I want to say this. Your statement, "We are about people," your statement, "We are about people," is beautiful. And now, more than ever, you can be a mighty force. You can be a mighty force for the people of San Diego through your example of boots on the ground resiliency. Your example of boots on the ground resiliency. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for listening to me always. I love you so much for that, and love to all.
Thank you, Joy. We are all doing the best we can, and we appreciate when the public joins us here. Thank you. Next, we have Carlos.
All right. Good morning, esteemed members of the San Diego Housing Commission. My name is Carlos Padial III, Director of Army of Saints and Lives of Encouragement, a 501c3 nonprofit organization here in San Diego. Our mission is to uniquely encourage our most vulnerable population. And I listened closely to the last meeting that y'all had, and I was moved by the words that I heard, and I heard that there was a big desire to collaborate on solutions for our homeless crisis. But my experience with the Commission's commitment to listening has been exactly opposite of the things you talked about in the last meeting. I came and spoke 2 months ago, and I met with one of your employees for about 30 minutes, and it didn't really go anywhere. My goal is to be able to sit down with one or some of you to share an innovative initiative that could be a paradigm shift that we need to turn things around. Today, I return with urgency and a concrete solution. For the past 8 years, I've dedicated myself to running the Army of Saints, focused on uniquely encouraging individuals facing challenges, but I bring more than nonprofit experience. December 2025 marks 10 years that I myself have been unhoused. I speak not just as an organization director, but as someone who has lived experience in San Diego. The numbers are devastating. 24,389 referrals to shelter intake this year, and only 2,820 accommodated, a catastrophic 12% rate. We lost over 800 beds from facility closures, and referrals increased 15%. We are failing 88% of people that are seeking help, and you can't imagine how disheartening it is to be a nonprofit executive and having to tell people no, and we can't help you, day in and day out. On a daily basis, I see clearly mentally ill people on our streets doing hard drugs like meth and fentanyl and defecating on our buildings with no consequence. People walk aimlessly downtown, freaking out residents and tourists, killing San Diego's reputation. Currently, there is no place for them to go during the day or night, and this is unacceptable and inhumane. From my lens, there is a huge opportunity no one is talking about or acknowledging or even realizing. Behind Father Joe's Village in East Village downtown, there is almost 5 acres of undeveloped land that could easily be and should be utilized as a comprehensive intake site to replace the current HRC that's in the public library downtown, which was a big mistake in the beginning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carlos. Our next speaker is Mandy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mandy, and I'm the treasurer of the board of directors for Army of Saints. And I'm here to present our street survival backpack initiative. And it's an immediate intervention that can help all 858 people currently sleeping on downtown streets while we work towards long-term solutions like Oasis. And the partnership's latest count shows 858 people sleeping on our downtown streets every night. And that 858 human beings without basic necessities for survival. And in East Village alone, 408 people, over half of all street homeless, are concentrated in the area where Oasis would be located. And these are our neighbors who need immediate help while we build comprehensive solutions. And the 12% accommodation rates means 88% of people seeking help are turned away with nothing. And our Street Survival Backpack Initiative provides immediate relief while connecting people to available resources. And each backpack contains sleeping bags, emergency blankets, non-perishable foods, first aid supplies, hygiene items, flashlights, phone charging cables, and weather protections. And most importantly, each backpack includes a comprehensive resource guide developed in partnership with 211 San Diego. And this guide provides step-by-step instructions for accessing available services, maps to shelter locations and food programs, contact information for crisis intervention, employment resources, and housing application processes. And we're requesting the Housing Commission join this critical initiative by funding 1,000 backpacks at $50 each. And total cost $50,000. And we also ask you to contribute to the resource guide with commission-specific services and support distribution through existing outreach programs. And this represents less than 0.01% of the commission's annual budget, but provides 100% coverage for every person on our streets. And it demonstrates good faith commitment to immediate relief while we work on long-term solutions. While we work to implement OASIS and other comprehensive solutions, people are suffering tonight, and this initiative provides immediate dignity and survival resources while connecting them to pathways off the streets. And combined with the OASIS, we can provide both immediate relief and long-term solutions. And the backpack recipients become candidates for OASIS housing, creating a complete pathway for street survival to dignified accommodation to permanent housing. And I'm here to ask you for partnership in this initiative. And let's ensure that within 3 months, every person experiencing street homelessness in downtown has the tools they need to survive. And thank you for your consideration.
What is your program?
Army of Saints?
Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate it. Next, I will ask if any commissioners would like to make any comments.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the speakers that we had. I want to say happy Filipino-American History Month. It's in the month of October, and we are still, at October 10th, we are also still the Hispanic Heritage Month, which is September 15th to October 15th. So what a wonderful way to celebrate our communities and neighborhood.
Thank you for that uplifting commissioner comment. Before I ask Casey to give us our report.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm here to provide the monthly update on the Coordinated Shelter Intake Program. So in the month of September, we received 2,732 requests for shelter, and we're able to place 265 in beds, which is a 10% placement rate. The number one reason we were not able to accommodate the request is that was due to not having enough male beds. That was 30%. Number two, at 13%, was for female bottom, so those would be females with special limitations into getting to the top bunk. And then at 12%, so just 1% lower, was for family. So we had 288 requests for family beds last month, and we were unable to meet that. Just a quick note about September before I move on to year to date. We did see a 21% increase in requests in the month of September, which almost 500 referrals, and then 40% increase since the month of July. So we see some upward trends of folks seeking assistance for shelter. Year to date, what that looks like is that we've had 6,931 referrals for shelter and 831 placements for an overall 12% placement rate. The way it looks year to date, 32% are not met due to no male beds, 14%. Number two, again, is no family beds. And then number three would be no female bottom. So we are seeing a trend. We're trying to analyze and to kind of see what could be impacting the sudden increase. We're thinking maybe some of the Caltrans encampment, cleaning up. There could be more requests for shelter coming in, but we don't actually, we're looking into it to see what could be impacting that.
So just to put a finer point on that, what you're telling me is that when people are moved out of where they're staying on Caltrans property, we do not have a place for them to go.
The odds are we do not.
Just so we're all clear. Thank you. I have one more question. When we're talking about the family referrals, does this always involve minors? Or does that include families that are adults?
Those would be,
multiple adults?
they're asking for shelter for, they have minors in their families, yes.
Got it. So all of those referral counts, and then that is by household, or that's the number of individuals?
Household.
Household. Got it. So the scale is actually I never quite realized this. The scale on that number is actually very different in terms of total number of individuals.
On average, our family sizes are 2.5 to 3.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. I don't think I have anything else to add other than just, in line with the public comments. I know that, I would just say that there are lots of leaders in this region who are running wonderful nonprofits, service providers, public agencies, and I have yet to meet one who does not feel the humanity of the problem with this referral rate number. It's why we talk about it at the beginning of every meeting. It lives on the front of all of our minds. So I know that it seems like something that should have been fixed by now. I think we all agree with that. We would all like to live in a society that took it with that level of seriousness. But we're all dealing with the same issue of how we accommodate about 10 times more people than we have the capacity to accommodate. So, thank you. Yes.
Question I wanted to ask for the Army of Angels? Army of Saints, excuse me. So what exactly is it that you would like the Housing Commission, in addition to the $50,000 so far as the properties you were talking about and being able to house some of the...
So we have two initiatives. One's an immediate...
Yeah, want to come on?
Two initiatives. The first is an immediate street survival backpack with everything needed to survive in the streets, and more importantly, a resource guide, not something they have to download or go online to get, a physical piece of paper with all the resources and a step-by-step game plan of how to survive on the street. And that's what we're asking for $50,000 for the immediate. There's also over 5 acres of land behind Father Joe's that's currently for lease and available. And our second initiative is to implore you guys to use that land as a congregation space that we can put together all the resources from different service providers so that we can accommodate everybody.
Is that kind of similar to the tent that they already have on the other side? I think, I'm not sure, that they're renting? Where they have a shelter type thing? What's different from yours than theirs?
So the Oasis, I'll get to it in a little bit later, but it stands for an open air solar intake site. So imagine like a public park or a public gym where you can go and refresh, recharge, take a shower, get a workout in, and access resources, wraparound resources that are on site. In 5 acres, we can accommodate 1,000 people at one time, provide them the services, and get that referral rate way up. They currently have the space right behind for lease. It's $30,000 a month for about almost 2 acres.
Thank you, Tony. Just in the interest of keeping our public business going here, I think that we have all your information, and I'm just going to ask staff if you can send an email to the commissioners and offer a time for any commissioners that would like to sit down and get more information.
Yeah.
We can make an offer of any non-quorum number of commissioners can sit down and talk to you in more detail.
That'd be amazing. And on armyofsaints.org, we have a lot of plans and things you can download more information on the Oasis. Thank you.
Any additional commissioner comments? No? Okay. Next is the report from the president and CEO.
Excuse me. Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Mercy, for finding my glasses. I wasn't sure how I was going to get through this morning. The shutdown of the federal government has now lasted longer than a week. We are going to discuss more about the federal budget proposals between the House and Senate and their potential impact on our funding during the presentation later this morning about our proposed legislative engagement guide. But I wanted to begin this morning by assuring you and the public that the shutdown has not at this time had any immediate effect on our programs. We made our rental assistance payments for the month of October, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has informed us that funds for public housing and rental assistance are obligated through the first 2 weeks of November and possibly through the end of November. But that remains to be seen as the shutdown continues. We are continuing to closely monitor developments in Washington and will provide additional updates as we have more information. As part of our federal advocacy efforts, in early September, we delivered letters to San Diego's congressional delegation communicating the potential impacts of the proposed HUD budgets on the households we serve. This was in advance of our in-person efforts. The week after the letters were sent, I traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet in person with the San Diego congressional delegation, Senate Appropriations Committee staff, and the House Appropriations Committee chair to reiterate the potential impacts of proposed HUD budget cuts on families in San Diego and across the country. To share stories about who we serve and who would be impacted the most if programs are not fully funded, and how devastating those impacts could be. Not just to the individuals and families we serve, but to the health and well-being of our community. It is not just the voucher program that could be impacted by potential cuts. Potentially impacted programs include public housing operating funds, home and CDBG funds, continuum of care funds, and impacts include already diminishing emergency housing voucher funds. It may seem like a counterintuitive time to be visiting with our federal lawmakers a week and a half before the government shuts down, but they are still negotiating right now. Ironically, it is actually probably the best time to be meeting with lawmakers. I wanted to make sure that the impacts that we will see here locally, the impacts that we would see across our country that they are responsible for, were understood. To get in front of them and understand and make sure that they knew the money that we need to be sustained, to be vibrant, to continue to support our community, and that other public housing authorities need across the country and continuums of care need across the country to continue furthering our efforts to address homelessness. Without voucher funds, without public operating funds, or with diminishing funds, that also impacts homelessness in our community and the number of people that experience the trauma of being unhoused. So it was very much, in our minds, the right time to be there, and we felt that we were heard. I'm not saying everything we had was good news, but people listened, and that's what's important, and those are the folks that are negotiating right now, trying to get us out of this shutdown and either into a permanent budget, which would be nice, or a continuing resolution. I'll take either one at this point. So that's just an important thought that I wanted to share. We do not take it lightly when we travel to DC. We have to be thoughtful of our costs, but being in person, sharing stories is hugely impactful. It's important to our work. Part of our effort also included developing new materials that communicated the number of families that could be at risk of losing rental assistance, the number of affordable housing developments at risk of losing funding who are under construction today, and the number of households at high risk of returning to homelessness if federal funds for housing and homeless programs are lost. Under the definition of under HUD's definition of elderly disabled, approximately 70% of the households we serve meet that definition. So we are serving people that do not have easy other options. Their income is limited. Their opportunities are limited. Last week, I also met with U.S. Representative Scott Peters and shared with him the potential impacts that federal funding could have on our programs and the families in San Diego who rely on us. Regardless of those challenges and the challenges we're navigating, there are always good things happening here at SDHC. In supporting our ongoing efforts to create and preserve additional affordable housing units that our community needs, we recently closed one notice of funding availability and will soon be issuing our second notice of funding availability to further affordable housing development. September 29th was the deadline for us to receive submissions responding to a $6.2 million NOFA to support the acquisition of land or existing housing to be used as affordable housing. The terms of our procurement policy do not allow us at this point to say how many responses we received or who submitted responses, but we are reviewing what has been submitted and will determine what funding may be made available to award through this NOFA. In addition, later this month, we anticipate issuing a second NOFA to make up to $17 million available to support affordable housing development. That NOFA is expected to be issued by the end of the month, and more information will be provided on our website when the NOFA is issued. Yesterday, we celebrated the grand opening of our Pacific Village property in the Midway community. This is a former hotel that we purchased and rehabilitated to create 62 new affordable rental apartments with access to supportive services for individuals who experienced homelessness. This is another step in our ongoing efforts to access and bring home key funds to our community. We have over 600 units that have been funded today through the collaboration of the City of San Diego, the County of San Diego, the state, and the commission, along with our service providers. Residents of Pacific Village include veterans, transition-age youth, and additional San Diegans who had been staying in shelters, in their cars, or on the streets. Thank you, Commissioner Cushman, for joining us for that event. I think we both really saw how amazing that space was and how wonderful it was to interact with the residents who are already calling Pacific Village home. Mayor Todd Gloria, City Council President Joe LaCava, and Councilmember Jennifer Campbell also participated, along with our partners from the state and the county. Living without shelter and security is a traumatic experience. I cannot overstate the importance of turning your key in the lock for the first time, walking into your own apartment, or going to sleep in your own bed, feeling safe and secure. Our residents have been able to experience those moments at Pacific Village, and that is what we celebrated at the grand opening yesterday. The state awarded $16.85 million for the Home Key program towards this project, and since Home Key started in 2020, more than $105 million of state funding has come to our community to support the 600 units I mentioned earlier. The Housing Commission now owns more than 550 of these units, including Pacific Village. And the city and county also provided $5.9 million each towards the Pacific Village project. We oversaw the rehabilitation of the property, and we are providing rental assistance for all of those residents, and supportive services are available through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs for the veterans at Pacific Village, and through Telecare provides services for all of the other residents through a contract with the county. Our Pacific Village grand opening came one day after we participated in another grand opening just a couple of blocks away from our offices. For anybody who is interested, just that way past the trolley station. The Harrington Heights development at 13th and Broadway provides 270 affordable apartments. We awarded an $8 million loan and authorized multifamily housing revenue bonds toward the financing that made Harrington Heights possible. The Housing Commission also awarded 115 rental housing vouchers to help residents pay their rent. 75 of those vouchers are for households that have previously experienced homelessness, including 10 for veterans. The remaining 40 vouchers are for residents with very low income. We joined the developer Chelsea Investment Corporation, as well as Mayor Gloria and additional partners, to celebrate the addition of Harrington Heights to our community here in the East Village. As those two developments come online, another property has started construction to create affordable. We're just in a flurry of work, right? Isn't it cool? It's just awesome. I'm telling you, good things are still happening, and they will continue to happen. Anyway, sorry, got distracted. Another property has started construction to create affordable housing in Pacific Beach. Last month, we joined National Community Renaissance and San Diego Community Housing Corporation for the groundbreaking of Rose Creek Village. Mayor Todd Gloria and Council President Pro Tem Kent Lee also participated. When it is completed, the Rose Creek Village development will provide 59 affordable housing units and about 2 miles from the beach. Wow, that sounds pretty good. And a mile from a transit center in one of San Diego's highest opportunity communities. It is wonderful to see this happening there. We awarded a $2 million loan to support this development and 47 housing vouchers to help residents pay their rent. Of those, 18 are for veterans that previously experienced homelessness. Just keeps going. Finally, at the end of September, we received 2 awards of merit from the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials, or NARO. I want to thank Commissioner Jackson for representing SDHC and accepting the awards. There you are. I know, you got to watch it when those cameras out. They show up all over the place. NARO recognized our flood recovery and response programs that assisted hundreds of families displaced by the catastrophic floods in January 2024. The second award of merit honored the community garden at our Belden Village affordable housing property for seniors with low income. With guidance from volunteer master gardeners, residents learn gardening skills, spend time outdoors, and participate in community activities such as the regular harvest parties where neighbors get together to taste the fruits of their labor. Love that. The garden has led to more engaged senior residents and has helped our property management staff forge closer relationships with the residents. Congratulations to this board and to all of our staff who worked on all of these programs. And that concludes my report for this morning.
Thank you, Lisa. Next is the approval of the
Mr. Chairman?
minutes. Yes, Commissioner Cushman.
So I just add to what Lisa said, the project we saw yesterday, 62 units, it was an old beat-up motel. So we helped the neighborhood by taking a real eyesore and a challenge, but it's secure, it's clean, the units were fantastic. I mean, and what I really liked is there's over 100 panels of solar on the roof, so they should have no electrical bill. So we were good corporate citizens. It's just everything I hope we can do. It blew my mind. I did get to talk to several of the residents, and the one lady I talked to came from the Salvation Army, and I said, well, I understand, one of the challenges folks have is people taking their goods, and she said, that's why I left Salvation Army, because it wasn't safe. And this is safe, clean, nice. I mean, we're giving people a hand up that they can be proud of where they live, and it's everything we hope we can do, all in one little 62 apartment bundle. But I think it's really going to be great. One lady told me, she said, this is my new home. I don't know if she can stay there forever, but to her it was, I now finally have a place I can call home. And I've not had that. She was on the street before that. She tried one of our tent shelters. She didn't like that. So it really makes you feel really good about what we're doing when you get to see something like that. It was very cool.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Cushman. It truly is a remarkable site. I just have to give kudos to the development team and the property management team. Not only is it a beautiful site, it's just a vibrant site. It has a lot of color. It feels good when you walk in the door. The energy of the property management team and the service providers is just present. And I experienced some of the same conversations with the residents. And, our permanent housing is permanent. For as long as someone needs that unit, it is available to them. If they need that unit because they can't afford the private market rent and their income isn't high enough, that unit is available to them. If they need those services on a continual basis, those services are available to them. So it was exciting to see sort of just the energy of the residents and the staff. Our own property management team there at that site, we're managing it ourselves.
Well, if you're going to give me the opening to talk about Midway, every time this has come up, I've said, and I'll say it again, I think that the other wonderful thing about that site and other projects that we have seen in that neighborhood is that this was a neighborhood that used to be housing that was affordable to working families, was a mixed race neighborhood at a time when most neighborhoods in San Diego were not. And it was a great, tragedy in the city's history that we lost all that in the 1960s. And so every little step that we take to, rectifying, because we now see how desperately we need those homes and the people who are looking for those homes and not finding them and ending up on our streets. So as that neighborhood goes back to serving the people of San Diego, in a more meaningful and productive way, I think it's also a historical win for us. And I could not agree more with everything you said. I think any of us that have had a conversation with somebody who has, in the immediate aftermath of having gone from chronic homelessness to being in permanent housing, the transformation is, shocking. And when you pointed out, the security issues. I mean, that is something we hear over and over and over again that I think all of us who are housed don't really think about how stressful and difficult it is just to keep yourself safe and fed and find a restroom. And that is an incredible amount of stress and pressure on people, and the speed with which they can reacclimate to stability is miraculous. And so, I think for everybody that thinks about the short-term things that we do with homelessness, that is also very important. But this is really what kind of drives us all towards the housing solution, is that is really the only thing that changes people's lives fundamentally, is when they have the space and security and stability to have a real meaningful human life with the dignity that they deserve. So thank you, Commissioner Cushman, and I'm glad that we took an extra moment to appreciate something good that's happening right now. Next is the approval of the minutes from September 12th, 2025, regular meeting of the board. No speaker slips have been submitted regarding the minutes. Do any commissioners have any changes to the minutes, or do we have a motion? We have a motioner by Commissioner Hester and a second by Commissioner Jackson to approve the minutes of the September 12th board meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. As I said at the start of today's meeting, I am proposing the following item for the consent agenda today. Item 101, the award of property management services contract for Hillcrest Inn Apartments. No speaker slips have been submitted for this item. This concludes the public comment period for those items. Do any commissioners have any comments on the consent agenda, or do we have a motion? We have a motion from Commissioner Cushman, a second from Commissioner Jackson to approve item 101 on today's consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. Next is item 100. We are going a little bit out of our initially planned order here, so I want to make sure we've got our item 100 ready. Yes, okay, good.
I asked just for a staff clarification, then I'm happy to move approval of the item. Just a clarification on my point.
Thank you for being on the ready. Is there any reason why we have to go through the whole presentation? It's available on the website for anybody that would like to read more about our flooring repair and replacement services. Commissioner Cushman, feel free to seek the clarification.
When I read the item, it seemed to me that these folks were getting an exclusive, singular opportunity to provide services to us. It has since been clarified to me, and I just want it clearly understood on the record, this is one of 3 contractors, so when we need VCT or we need carpet or whatever, it goes out to all 3. And thus, we get competitive bids. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
And having received that answer, I'd be happy to move acceptance of the item, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. This is what an engaged and informed board of directors looks like. And so you are welcome to the public and the elected officials who are counting on us to review things with a fine-tooth comb. You got it. Great clarification. I hope that anybody who is watching at this level of detail feels good about our level of competitiveness that we are maintaining. We have a motion from Commissioner Cushman, second from Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. And
All right, that's our property management and asset management team right there. Thanks, gentlemen.
great presentation, team. Next is item 102 regarding the Housing Commission's state and federal advocacy legislative engagement guide. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Vice President of Policy, Francis Barraza, and Michael Gunning, the Chief Strategy Officer at Lighthouse Public Affairs, will be presenting this item. Please begin when you are ready.
Good morning, Vice Chair Klempner. My name is Thomas DeFranco, not Francis Barraza. And I will be presenting, I'm the Housing Commission's...
My apologies for not looking up. I do know the difference between the two of you. She has a little more hair.
Not a problem. I'm the Housing Commission's Director of Policy, and today I'll be presenting our 2026 Advocacy and Legislative Engagement Guide for your approval. This is the fourth year that the Housing Commission has created an advocacy and legislative engagement guide for the board's consideration as aligned with our new strategic plan. In today's presentation, I'll discuss the legislative engagement guide, provide an overview of what happened at the state and federal level, provide a summary of our state and federal advocacy efforts, and identify upcoming legislative themes that will guide our work in 2026. During the year, the Housing Commission's policy team tracks and analyzes affordable housing and homelessness policy and legislation at the state, local, and federal levels. This document is a guide for the Housing Commission's legislative priorities and advocacy efforts. It allows for flexibility if unanticipated issues arise during the year, and if a proposal is introduced that is not outlined in the current engagement guide but falls within the Housing Commission's strategic plan priority areas, the policy team reviews the issue with senior leadership for guidance. We also engage directly with policymakers and local stakeholders, including the city's government affairs team, on pending regulations, legislation, and funding appropriations. The Housing Commission works to advance policies consistent with our vision, mission, purpose, core values, and strategic priorities as defined in our new strategic plan for fiscal year 26 through 2030. The 2026 Advocacy and Legislative Engagement Guide supports the Housing Commission's strategic priority area of reimagining the agency and includes our 4 key policy priorities: production of affordable housing, preservation of affordable housing, sustaining rental assistance, and homelessness prevention and best practices in addressing homelessness. We'll now discuss our state advocacy work. Here with me today is Michael Gunning from Lighthouse Public Affairs. He is our Sacramento Legislative Consulting Team. Michael is Lighthouse's Chief Strategy Officer, and I will now pass it to Michael to provide a summary of the legislative session and our state advocacy efforts in 2025.
Awesome. Thank you, Francis. Just kidding, Thomas. Just kidding. Had to do that. As you guys see up there on the calendar, and thank you for being here, and I must share, it's just a treat to represent you and to see that village and the opening there. Just makes you warm, right? Think about how good it is and what you're doing here. We literally got word 5 seconds ago that the governor signed SB 79, which is that transit-oriented development that everyone was watching LA opposed late. So the action continues till Monday, the 13th. He has to sign or veto all these bills. We want to start next with, let's see if I get this right. Did I get it right? You might. I didn't get it right.
There you go.
There it is. We all know we're in tough budget times. I think Lisa talking about going to Washington is important, and the same thing is happening in Sacramento. Process is the governor in the first week of the year says this is what I like to do, and then the legislature spends the next time going through what the governor wants to do, and it comes up with its budget, and then in May we revise that and look at how they all match or what the governor wants to do, because I think that's what gets done, usually what he wants to do. This year, housing took a hit. I think specifically, as you see there, the infill infrastructure grant was not included, so there was no money, and a lot of the developers use that to build the roads and sewers. Homelessness housing and assistance was pushed off. The governor pushed till next year $500 million for that. He did include low tax credits. We did include some multifamily programs. Interestingly, Cal Home, which is the program that you use to do first-time homeowners program, was not funded. Instead, the governor opted to fund a program called Dream for All, which is a shared appreciation program with the state that allows people to buy homes. Important, but Habitat, you guys, we all use Cal Home. So right now, we know that is going to be one of our focus areas for next year. Now, there it is. Thank you, buddy. I talked a little bit about the political landscape up there. The other dynamic facing our legislature, just like it's facing you, is the federal budget. What's it going to be? How much money? I mean, we're already seeing some of the impact of no money coming from the federal government. So budget and the money for housing will continue through all of next year. We're going to see that again. Combined on top of that, of course, is the political dynamics. Senator McGuire and everyone knows Prop 50, which is now 2 weeks away. We're going to vote on that. And I have to tell you, the legislative process shut down while they looked at that. As soon as Trump said that, the governor went into process, and so they passed Prop 50, which will be on the ballot. And so you can imagine all of the members running for Congress that were running for something else. And so now you see a shift going on of everyone, now I want to run for Congress. I'm going to leave this. Like Mike McGuire, for example, is going to run against Doug LaMalfa. So I share that just so you appreciate the tension and dynamics going up in Sacramento. For us, we stay focused. We're still looking at housing and homelessness, and we're trying to restore some of those cuts. One of our other clients, Habitat for Humanity California, plans to send a letter to the governor and hold a rally next month to restore Cal Home. One of the things I'm really excited about is we always do these affordable housing bonds, these big mega bonds. They got stalled this year, $10 billion for housing, and we think next year that will be moving forward, but we think that public housing agencies, a portion of that bond should be dedicated for them. So I'm really excited about trying to include San Diego as part of that. Touch a little bit on the wins, because that's what we really do, and that's what's fun for me. And I think representing the commission and being before the legislature and being your voice up there is just exciting and something I truly enjoy. And AB 282, a Pell Run bill that was actually sponsored by a sister agency in Santa Cruz, I think would be one of the highlights for us in the year. I think respectfully but persistently, we oppose this legislation, which would have changed, as we see the definition, help me here, Thomas.
The California Fair Housing Act.
Could have impacted the Fair Housing Act. Late in the game, in the Senate, we opposed, got amendments that helped us through, so that bill was fixed for us. We did sponsor some other bills. I think, let's see, the Wilson bill, 1026 and 1404. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed the Wilson bill, and 1404, I think, is still out there, or did not act. It didn't have a hearing.
Yeah, and both of those bills were in alignment of one of the board's priorities and our priorities in the legislative engagement guide last year to prioritize affordable housing with utility hookups. I know that was something that the chair had prioritized. We took an effort this year to support both of those bills in that effort, and governor ended up vetoing one and another didn't even get a hearing. So we're going to be bringing that back next year as well, and supporting efforts to try to get affordable housing prioritized with utility hookups.
Great, thanks, Thomas, for cleaning that up. Next year, I think as we look at next year, we've already talked about the housing bond and production there and adding PHAs into that. Preservation continues to be important, but I do want you guys to take note of this new agency. This past year, a new housing cabinet position was created, Housing and Homeless Agency. And so the Little Hoover Commission had hearings on it, but this agency is to be purely focused on housing going forward. It's going to take a year or two to get set up, but I would imagine we want to have a front seat there working with them and helping them. Election year in '26, I think we all saw all the candidates running for whatever office. And what happens in election years is they don't try to get big things done because they want to go campaign. So sometimes election years are a little bit slower, but I think it's going to be big with this new agency going. And with that, Thomas, I think I'm going to pass it back to you, brother.
Thanks, Michael. So now I'll quickly discuss our advocacy efforts at the federal level. This year, in preparation for the new administration, the Housing Commission engaged with a new federal consultant, Breakaway, to increase our advocacy efforts in Washington, D.C. To review the past year, as we all know, President Trump is back in the White House, and the Republicans hold a majority in both the House and the Senate by slim margins. One of the first major moves from this Congress was the passage of the Rescissions Act of 2025, or H.R. 4. This included $9.4 billion in clawbacks of previously approved federal spending, but notably, HUD funds were spared, which was important for our work. That said, the rescissions made it a lot harder for Congress to pass a new budget, as we are seeing now with our federal government currently being in a shutdown. Congress also passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025, or H.R. 1, which was a sweeping tax and spending bill. It included cuts to social safety net programs, many of which are used by the households that we serve. But it also included a major expansion of low-income housing tax credits, which is something that we've mentioned previously that we've been watching closely. As we're all aware, the federal government is currently shut down, which came into effect October 1st. And like Lisa communicated during her CEO report, there's been no immediate impact on SDHC or our programs. Depending on how Congress decides to move forward, there are two options with getting out of this shutdown. Option one includes a continuing resolution, or CR, which is potentially the most likely scenario. There currently is a CR that is through November 21st that has passed the House. And if Congress passes a continuing resolution, it basically means that we're operating under last year's budget numbers. And that might sound fine on paper, but it doesn't account for inflation, rising insurance premiums, or the growing demand for services. So in real terms, it can be considered a cut. It also puts a freeze on new initiatives, and for public housing authorities, it means we're stuck in short-term planning mode that increases our administrative burden and makes it harder for us to operate and plan efficiently. Option two includes a full budget agreement. This is the more stable path, but also the harder one because both chambers have to actually agree on the same budget. If they do, it gives us a full year of funding certainty. Services can stay stable and we can plan ahead with confidence rather than constantly reacting with short-term fixes. And I think like Lisa said at the beginning, we kind of take either one at the moment. We would like our government to be back open. Both the House and the Senate budget proposals for HUD include some cuts when compared to the prior year's continuing resolution, but also aren't as bad as we thought they might be. The House version proposes deeper cuts across the board, including to public housing capital and operating funds, administrative fees for vouchers, and even eliminates the home program. This includes a minor decrease in Section 8 renewals as well. The Senate version also includes cuts, particularly to public housing operations and CDBG, and reflects minor decreases to Section 8 housing choice vouchers, taking into consideration inflation and rent increases. The Housing Commission will continue to monitor the developments in Washington, D.C., and closely monitor the impacts of the shutdown as budget negotiations continue. This year at the federal level, the Housing Commission increased the amount of advocacy work and delivered letters to San Diego's congressional delegation communicating the impacts of the proposed HUD budgets on the households that we serve. You heard earlier from Lisa's CEO report about our meetings with Appropriations Committee staff in the in the House, in the Senate, and with our San Diego delegation communicating these impacts. As we enter into next year's federal legislative session, we'll continue to track and analyze proposed legislation, submit letters of support, and meet with the delegation to advocate for our funding priorities for next year's budget process. So, next steps. Like I was mentioning, the proposed advocacy and legislative engagement guide will provide a framework for policy engagement through the year calendar 2026. And that concludes our presentation. Lighthouse Public Affairs and our staff are available for any questions you may have and respectfully request your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one speaker slip from Joy.
Thank you, Scott. Joy Sunyata, District 3. I love the work you do. I think if I were starting over again as a young person, I would love to do your work. I think that it's very powerful, it's very needed, and for a long time I did not know about the importance of your work for us in San Diego. So thank you so much for that and for the very good presentation this morning. I know this really isn't your purview, but anything you can do to inspire the people that are going to be truly impacted by some of these changes would be great. So you just do whatever you can on all levels would be really appreciated. So just a couple of things. I do like this legislative engagement guide. I think you said it was its fourth year, and I'm so glad we've got it because, as I just said, it's absolutely vital to us to have that kind of collaboration, that bridge between us and those other levels. I mean, how could we do it without it? And if we didn't really put a tremendous effort and resources into it, it just would be unthinkable. So I really love the words reimagining the agency. I'm so glad that's in our strategic plan, the new strategic plan, and that you mentioned it just now, because I think there's golden opportunities. We've got to look at that, right, with what's happening to us, to all of us. And part of that is reimagining our own lives, reimagining government, and that's such a beautiful word. So thank you for that, and let's really put a big effort into reimagining the agency. That would be terrific. I'm very concerned about HAP. I did hear a presentation the other day at a committee on the what's happening with HAP in currently. And I got lost in the shuffle. So I'm not quite sure what the $500 million is that's coming next year, what's happening in round 7 and all that. It doesn't sound real shaky. It sounds like it's on good solid footing. But anything you can do for HAP, that's kind of one of the things I just love so very much, and I really appreciate your help on that. So one more thing quickly, the strategic plan is going to be the new one. I hope you're going to stay for the whole meeting if you can do that, because that's going to be a guiding platform for you, and you're going to just love it. So thank you so much. Love to all.
Thank you, Joy. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments or a motion? Questions, comments?
No comment.
Okay, I'll quickly say thank you very much. I have one thing on the state and one thing on the federal, but Joy just adds so much to our discussions here. I want to reassure you, Joy, you're not the only person who can't follow the shuffle that happens with HAP and its various funding rounds and all that. This is why we need professionals who think about this all the time, because I can't keep up with it without a summary. So, but I want to point out from the perspective of a local agency that this is a real challenge with these systems in general when we are relying on funding year to year. And as much as we depend on and appreciate the funding that has come from HAP over the years, it really hampers our ability to build stable, efficient, long-term systems that are best designed towards the goals that HAP is funding. Because if 10 years ago, somebody had spelled out for us exactly what the 10-year funding stream from HAP would look like and given us the flexibility to build towards that, we would have a system that looked very differently and cost inputs that look different than they do now. And if I'm getting any of this wrong, Lisa, feel free to tell me. But we do the best we can. But when it is year to year, and when that number changes year over year, everything essentially has to get built in some form of temporary state, and then we have to deal with fixing things that weren't designed to last as long as they do, contracts that assume that people's jobs would end and then they get extended, the turnover rate that happens with the staff. So I just really hope that anyone thinking about these funding streams and these programs at any level is thinking very hard about the cost we pay in having short-term vision. This is not a short-term problem. I think when HAP started, the thought was we'll throw some money at it and stabilize it and then stop. It's not what happened. And so now we're just paying the price for continuing to pretend that that's how this is working. We need to know how much money we're going to have over a 10-year period if we want to build a system that does better than what it does right now. I just don't know how it's possible when we're hand to mouth year to year. So that was my HAP, and again, prefaced all with, HAP is probably our largest source of funding for homeless services. It has been for a long time. Yeah, so again, we're very appreciative. We'd be, in a terrible position without it. But it doesn't seem in line with the goals that everybody agrees on. So, anything to add, Lisa?
No, Commissioner Cushman, you're absolutely right. When you, oh gosh, sorry.
Both of our names begin with C.
You're right. I'm going to take that one. Thank you, sir. I apologize. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Let's just say that. The challenge with HAP, to your point, has always been that we only can plan for the amount we're getting for that year. So there is no ability to build a system-wide response that includes long-term solutions that we know will be successful and and that we're also learning from, right? So part of it is that we learn as we go and we realign and we redefine. We can only do that when we know we have a source we can rely on, and we can't. And yes, absolutely, we're grateful for it. I can't imagine where we would be without it. But I believe that there's also, and I'll say this is a personal opinion, although I'm saying it sitting in this seat, there's also a perception that because the problem isn't gone, that HAP is not impactful, and it is. It keeps people safe off the streets. It connects them through outreach to longer-term solutions. It puts people in permanent housing. It funds case managers that engage with folks and help them remove the barriers that are keeping them from getting housed in the first place. It makes the full system work. It is part of a system. It is working. Our numbers are reducing. And I know that there's an argument that the point-in-time count doesn't count everybody that's out there. That's always the case. But it is a good snapshot of our efforts and the impact of our efforts. And the idea that funding should be withdrawn or reduced simply because the problem isn't solved in a state where our rents and all of our other costs continue to go up is very short-sighted. I see what people do. You all see what we do in our community to make a difference. Have we reached everybody? To your point earlier, sir, have we reached everybody who needs it? No. Have we made a difference in people's lives? Every day. If this could be a permanent funding source, if we could have any permanent funding sources for homelessness or housing that go directly to our community, that would be a game changer. As policymakers, as practitioners, we could really align our efforts around best practices and force multiply.
In the simplest terms, we San Diego would have thousands of additional people living on the street if we had not had HAP for the amount of time that we've had. If I had one thing I could say to Governor Newsom about this, as I've seen it play out, it's that the accountability is being approached from the wrong direction here, because it seems like the biggest lever for accountability that the governor and the state have looked at is the ability to change or withdraw HAP. And so when they have ideas about, things that they do like or don't like that they're seeing in local governments, then they hold up HAP and they tell us we're not getting it unless they see the results that they want to see. And my point is that in general, I would say that's a completely unproductive way to try to make changes to the system statewide, because the only way that we can make most of those changes is with some long-term stability where we know what we're working with. It is just not possible to make the things that we're seeking on the accountability front work on a year-to-year basis, because we cannot get the efficiencies. We can't measure the results the same way. We can't do those things year to year. We need a longer runway. So what I would much rather see happen would be a longer-term commitment for HAP or any other funding with some best practices built into it, some accountability mechanisms built into it, so that we all know what we're being judged on for the funding. And those things need to be very carefully considered as to what we're measuring. And San Diego has lots of examples of, we try to measure just the number of people who are exiting a shelter, and then we find out what that causes is the shelters just start turning people over really fast, because that's the thing they get measured on. So, this needs to be thought through carefully, and but there is no way for us to move towards the goal that is being set for us when the funding stream to get there is the thing that is held over us every single year and the thing that we can't rely on. So I just really wish that the policymakers at the state would understand that. We need something that allows us to build long-term programs. Thank you I'm glad we took this detour. Secondly, on Cal Home, I'm a big supporter of the first-time homebuyer programs. This agency's been a leader on them. I do wonder, is there any, because the truth is that is the tiniest little Band-Aid to go over what has happened over the past decade, which is the collapse of multifamily for sale. There just are virtually no condos getting built for sale anymore due to the liability changes that we all know about. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Because I'm happy that we're fighting for first-time homebuyer programs, but first-time homebuyer programs are a tiny drop in the bucket compared to what we're losing with all of our housing production occurring as rental.
Yeah, Vice Chair Klumner, I agree, right? And when you have so many priorities, it's difficult to pick one, right? I represented the home builders before, and fantastically, the system they have now is the system they like. And so any efforts to change it becomes that's
part of the problem.
I know, right? But the thing, the bill that is being considered is condo deposits, where your deposit could be used to help build more. So that's the concept that'll probably be floated next year. But trying to redo construction defect, there's a lot pushing back against any effort. And there was an effort 2 years ago by out of Orinda.
Can you elaborate slightly here? So if a home builder is pre-selling condos and they take a deposit, they want to be able to say, we're setting the deposit you're paying, we're setting aside for the litigation and settlement.
No, it would be actually used for the construction. Of course, probably like all the commissioners here, well, what if they don't want to stay in that condo? Do they get their money back? And I think that's one of the dynamics of the discussion. But the idea would be to create funding for condo developers and to increase the level of production.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll take any progress that happens any year. It's just, I feel like almost every homeowner I know, myself included, started with a condo that we would never be able to afford anymore, and that nobody trying to become a homeowner now can afford anymore. And so the opportunity cost that's coming with the lack of condos for sale is enormous. And so any progress in that direction. And the great thing about all this too, that's the only thing that doesn't cost us any money. When home builders put condos on the market, we're not spending money on it. Unless there's an affordability component, which is some of the best money we could spend. So thank you for that update on the federal. Can you skip back to the federal slide? I'm trying to remember what I was planning on commenting on 10 minutes ago. So I remember now. Can you go to the cuts on Section 8, or the lack of cost changes on Section 8?
Oh, where was that? Right here, yeah.
Yeah, so we're losing, does not, so the minor decrease, great, it's not, every day that the word minor is included in the federal funding change.
I want to contextualize minor decrease.
Yeah.
Because a minor decrease could be 3 to 5%. That's a small percentage. That represents a lot of funding. When in context, right?
You're beating me to my point, which is that the note here does not cover expenses of households currently served because it does not account for inflation and rent increases. Okay.
Right.
Let me translate this for everybody. We are currently dispersing what percentage more in federal funds, in housing subsidies than we receive?
So this year, we anticipate spending about $17 million more than we are receiving. I'm not entirely sure what that percentage looks like, but our average monthly cost is about $25 million. So that's nearly, that's about 2/3 of a month's worth of assistance.
So let me spell this out. So we change our, I'm blanking on the limit that our vouchers pay, the
payment standards.
We change the payment standards according to HUD rules to reflect what's going on with our cost of living and rents in this market, which is what's supposed to happen. And then when we have done that over recent years with these very steep increases, the funding for the program that comes from the federal government has not matched the increases that we've been committing to our residents per the HUD regulations about how that process is supposed to work. So we have been having to backfill our federal funding with other sources of local dollars that can otherwise be used for housing production, for homeless services, for other things.
Yes.
Okay.
There's an important point there.
Mm-hmm.
HUD looks at fair market rents, not at your average subsidy amount. So when they think of inflationary factors, frankly, the inflationary factor index that they use is very convoluted, and I don't think we have a consultant that knows for sure, Jeff, how they actually come up with their inflationary factor. But they look at fair market rents. If you look at how our rents have increased over the last 5 years, there's several data points out there, but on average, you can say private market rents have increased around 35%. As of last month, I think our average housing assistant payment cost over that same 5-year period has increased almost 70%. So if our costs are increasing far faster than the fair market rents are, and they're looking at the fair market rents, they could potentially be doubly behind.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too technical here, but I mean, the main thing here is when we see that we're just not getting an inflation and cost of living increase on the rental subsidy that the federal government is providing us, that just means that we are falling deeper and deeper into a hole, and the people who are counting on that rental assistance are in greater and greater jeopardy because at a bare minimum, we can't take any more. And the thing that we're now guarding against, we are no longer fighting to get our wait list down. That was the goal for a long time. We are now fighting to continue serving the people who are already counting on the rental assistance. And the federal government is not and shows no sign that they will ever in the coming years match the costs that we are seeing on the street. So these programs, when we see that there's not an inflation or cost of living or rent increase built into these programs, what that means is that the program is shrinking. It's shrinking year over year. It's been shrinking. We need to just be really clear with the public. Section 8 is not in a status quo. Nothing's happening. It is shrinking. It has been shrinking, is continuing to shrink at a faster and faster rate, especially for us here in San Diego. So I just, you've all got a huge amount on your plate in terms of what's happening at the federal, and I know that a lot of this just gets lost, unfortunately, to the people who are counting on this. And I want to make sure that nobody is worried that you are not going to lose your rental assistance. We are going to find ways to make this work. But a small thing like not uncovering the inflation and the rent increases in our allocation takes the hole that we're dealing with from $17 million to something much bigger than that. And that is a major constriction for us when we look at all the other things that we would like to do and all the other people that we would like to serve, is that we're facing deficits in these programs. The programs are shrinking, and the only way that they will stop shrinking is if we find other sources of revenue to fund them, because this one's not growing. So anyway, that's all. I forgot I'm chairing.
You mean,
Does anyone else have anything to add? Or? No, okay.
Are you asking us to turn your speaker off? I'm not sure what you're asking.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jackson at the very beginning. Do we have a second? A second from Commissioner Hester. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for everything that you're doing for us. Next is item 103, the Housing Commission Strategic Plan for fiscal year 26 through 2030. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Our President and CEO, Lisa Jones, will introduce this item.
Wonderful. So we did do a full presentation at the last workshop. Through a workshop at the last meeting, we're going to do a slightly abridged presentation today, making sure that folks who are here today attending and the public have a chance to hear about it again, as do our commissioners. I'm joined today by Deborah Fischel-Falk, our Senior Vice President of Community and Strategic Initiatives. Many of you will recall a meeting with John Hart, CEO of many of our board members will recall a meeting with John Hart, CEO of the Impact Center, who supported SDHC in the development of this plan. He was not able to join us today as he did for the workshop in September, but we very much appreciate the facilitation and expertise that John and his team provided during this process. We're here to present the fiscal year 2026 to 2030 strategic plan, which we feel is a bold, forward-looking roadmap that reflects the voices of our staff, partners, and community. The past year has been a year of profound change. Policy priorities have shifted significantly at a federal level. Why am I not wearing my other glasses? Sorry. Okay, that's so much better. I just didn't pick them up. The past year has been a year of profound change, as we have just been talking about. Policy priorities have shifted significantly at a federal level, and funding uncertainties are evident across all levels of government, local, state, and federal. SDHC is, and has been for many years, a high-performing agency with dedicated staff delivering critical resources to our community every day. But we are also facing head-on the reality that how we have worked before and those solutions that have delivered for us in the past may not meet the needs of these changing times. We must reevaluate our priorities, our available resources, and prepare for future opportunities in new ways so that we can continue to deliver on our mission. Resiliency is not just a theme in this process, it is our guiding principle. It's how we will navigate change, remain grounded in our mission, and continue delivering for the people of San Diego. This morning, we'll walk you through a high-level overview of the development of the plan and its key priority areas. Our vision, what we are working toward, everyone in the city of San Diego has a home they can afford. Our mission, our core business, to foster social and economic stability by ensuring the development and preservation of quality and affordable housing. Our purpose, to provide stable, quality housing solutions so the community can thrive. And our core values guide our decisions and actions. Now, Deborah will present our process, the priorities and initiatives of our plan.
Thank you, Lisa. This plan was shaped through comprehensive engagement with staff, elected officials, partners, clients, and the public. It included one-on-one interviews, hour-long focus group meetings, an SDHC staff survey, a public survey that received nearly 1,400 responses, and an exercise at an all-SDHC staff meeting. In addition, a strategic planning team made up of a diverse group of SDHC staff from various departments played a critical role in translating feedback into actionable strategies. Before getting started, I'd like to note that every initiative within every priority area has specific measures of success. For this presentation, we'll be highlighting just the broad initiatives for each priority area. The full document provides details on all initiatives and their associated measures of success. We identified 5 strategic priorities that will guide our work over the next several years. Reimagine the agency, reassess annually, create and preserve housing, embody person-centered operations, and address and prevent homelessness. We are reimagining how we operate, modernizing our methods while staying grounded in our mission and values. Through these 5 initiatives, we'll focus on cost containment, new revenue streams, stronger communications, optimized technology, and leveraging our leadership in the housing field. To stay relevant and responsive, we'll conduct annual reviews of our goals, assumptions, and strategies, and recommend changes as necessary as our initiative for this priority area. Okay, thanks. Access to safe, stable, and affordable housing is a foundation for individual well-being and community resilience. We are committed to continuing our efforts to identify resources to create new housing opportunities and preserve existing affordable homes. For this initiative, we are aligning key divisions: real estate development, asset management, property management, and rental assistance for a unified strategic approach. We're taking a multi-pronged approach of furthering our efforts to create new housing, preserve existing stock, and protect affordability in order to meet the urgent needs of today while planning for long-term resilience. A person-centered approach is central to our core values and is foundational to both the services the agency provides, how we engage with the San Diego community, and the way we support our staff. It's about dignity, respect, and responsiveness. As we move forward with the strategic plan, we will ensure a person-centered perspective will inform decisions agency-wide. We've embedded person-centered practices in both serving our community and internal staff engagement through these 2 initiatives in their respective measures of success. We remain deeply committed to addressing homelessness through evidence-based, person-centered strategies. Our strategic plan builds on the Community Action Plan on homelessness and reinforces our alignment with citywide goals while advancing new and responsive strategies to meet evolving needs. Our focus is on aligning resources with the city's plan with a strong emphasis on prevention. Lisa?
I was waiting for you to keep time. I don't know why mine says thank you, Deborah. I was like, why is she thanking herself? Thank you, Deborah. And a deep thank you to the many community members, policy leaders, customers, and partners and staff who helped shape our new plan. As a reminder, many more measurements for success that support the underlying initiatives for each priority area are contained in the full plan, and we encourage staff and community members to read and share it with others. Ongoing feedback and collaboration will be key to the success of this strategic plan, and thus the success of our agency. Together with our dedicated staff, our partners, and the community, we will continue to adapt, innovate, and to deliver. We request, is that me? Yep. We request the board take the 2 actions on this slide. Not this slide, the next slide. There we go, this slide. That concludes the presentation. We're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. We have 2 speaker slips. We'll begin with Carlos.
All right, esteemed commissioners, so I've reviewed the strategic plan, and I love that we're reimagining the agency. But I think that cannot be done without commissioners themselves taking part in outreach. In the last meeting, I heard that you couldn't do outreach because it was so hard to stomach. And I implore y'all to maybe once a month do a nighttime outreach in our community. I also suggest that prior to these meetings, maybe you park 5 blocks away from the office here so that you can walk and see and smell exactly what's going on our streets on a daily basis. This morning, as I came to the meeting, there was 2 people sleeping on the building that we're standing in. This is beyond belief. I think we need to begin with the end in mind, and the end should be that we have 0 street homeless, period. I don't see that in the strategic plan as far as a goal, and we really gotta manifest what we want to see. Thoughts become things, and I want to see in the strategic plan an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. There's plenty enough money in San Diego to go around and support all the resources that we need. Also, resources are only available for the most part between 9 and 5 p.m. I think this is something to be addressed. Homelessness is not 9 to 5. It is something that's 24 hours, and we need to address that. The numbers don't lie. I believe that we should have a priority to meet the numbers by building the infrastructure, prioritizing that over the employment of the personnel to run these operations. If we need 1,000 beds, we need to build 1,000 beds, plain and simple. And I'm tired of apologizing to our tourists and our guests that visit our city for the condition that it's in. We should be an example for the rest of the United States of America. We should be an international destination. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joy.
Okay, Joyce Anetta, District 3. Thank you, Carlos. Keep it up. It's good work. We appreciate you. Okay, I'm not going to jump up and down until I see that you voted and said yes. That piece. Joyce Anetta, District 3. I want to repeat 2 sentences from what I said at non-agenda public comment this morning. I am honored to participate in this San Diego Housing Commission strategic plan. Here is what I have to offer you. My offering is thank yous. Thank you I've said all I need to say about the plan. It's great. And I just want to thank you. Now, I started with this in fall of 23 when we had a workshop that was continued, was pulled from the agenda and continued. And I started harping about that in early 24. And believe me, I did my harping work. And I just want to thank everyone for listening to me, for being patient with my impatience. And here we are, and we did it. And it took a while. I was really struggling with being patient, but here we are, and I'm excited. So I want to thank Deborah. She's fabulous, and you have such a beautiful voice. I could listen and listen to that. So thank you, Deborah. You're absolutely fabulous. And I just want to, there's so many people to thank. I want to thank absolutely everybody who worked on this. Everybody, that includes everybody in the whole San Diego. And of course, the commissioners, fabulous work, all of you. And I understand there was extra homework and work done by Vice Chair Klumpner. Thank you for that so very, very much. Just special place in my heart for any extra work on it. Thank you. And of course, our beautiful, our wonderful, our humorous, our everything, CEO, President Lisa Jones. Thank you. I don't want to have tears, but I'm so excited about resiliency. And reimagining is a beautiful word, too. So thank you, everybody. I just feel so wonderful today, and I'm so glad to be part of the team. It's a huge team, and we need to stick together now. So thank you. Love to all. Vote yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any comments, questions, or a motion? Commissioner Hester?
I just want to acknowledge Deborah and our wonderful President CEO Lisa Jones for leading this strategic plan conversation with other commissioners. And to Carlos, I share your frustration. I would like to give you $10 and tell you to solve world's hunger, right? And I think that's where you're coming from, the mindset of scarcity. So I think you are in the right space. These are the people that are trying to solve exactly what you're frustrated about. So I appreciate you coming to these meetings. And I want to thank Lisa thank God we have Lisa leading us because she really, truly have the heart and the gut and the mind to lead us in this direction of assisting everyone that needs housing.
Thank you. We have an amazing team. So I have the luxury of sitting up here and the title behind my name, and I deeply appreciate the compliment and the accolades. But I get that because I sit here. It's everyone sitting out there, everyone working at home, everyone working in their offices who make this agency what it is. Thank you all.
I've said plenty on this subject over a series of public hearings, private meetings, conference calls, Zooms. So I was going to kind of not say anything, but Joy sort of reminded me where we started with the strategic planning process and purpose some years ago. On the last item, which was about our state and federal legislative advocacy. And when I started here, I had no idea that we had anybody doing anything on those. There was some name I'd heard off doing something. But the first couple of years as a commissioner, you're really just kind of figuring out how basic things work, because this is an incredibly complicated agency. And then I got put on the first strategic planning committee, and then that's a little bit more of an insight. And one of the things that we kind of added was we want to have a strategy and a plan and a process around the advocacy, because that's such a huge part of how we exist as an agency. And so that got added in, but that was a very kind of compressed and narrow strategic planning process that was just a little more than we'd done before I was here. And so when this one came up, I saw the benefits that this agency and the challenges that were coming up with taking a systemic strategic approach to what is it we're trying to do here, because there are so many experts in this building that it's very easy for everybody to be the expert in their little piece of the equation, and it's very hard to back up and think about what is the system that we're actually trying to build, preserve, fix, and the strategic planning, I think, is the place to do that. So my kind of vision and hope for this, in terms of the operational side, is that we see the benefits that we've seen with the legislative actions and the change in our approach over the last 5 years on that we see those benefits across everything that this agency does, meaning the benefit of stepping back, thinking about how this is organized, what we're trying to do, what our priorities are, and how we're going to go about it. And that is what this plan has done. And I also want to thank Deborah and Lisa, and also jump on what Lisa just said, which is, there are bullet points and sub-bullet points throughout this plan. Those originated from all kinds of senior staff and not senior staff and rank and file staff in this agency. And so I may be the chair of the committee that had a meeting about this, and Lisa may be the CEO, and Deborah may have managed the contracting and the process and the input. But the product that we have here is a result of all of that feedback. I am so proud of and impressed that we had 1,400 people respond to a survey. Frankly, I do a lot of surveying in my private business, and that's a really high number to get on anything. In particular, people who it's often very challenging for us to get that feedback because they're busy and they don't have time to watch our board meetings or share their thoughts with us. So the fact that we got that, I think, is so impressive. And I think and then the last thing on what both our public speaker Carlos and Commissioner Hester said, I think that we all grapple with the issue of scarcity and how to manage and control that mindset, because it is 100% true that this region is one of the wealthiest places on earth. Far more wealth exists in the boundaries of this city than many places across the world that have much smaller challenges with homelessness and the ability of people to keep a roof over their head. And on the other side of that coin, the people that we deal with from a rental assistance, from a behavioral assistance, from a service standpoint, are living in extreme scarcity. And when we look at our budgets and our funding streams, we are living in, I think there's no getting around the fact that when we have 10 times more people asking for a shelter bed than we have a shelter bed to provide them, we are in a position of extreme scarcity. And I don't think we should ever let go of the fact that is where we're at. That it's not that the money isn't there, it's around. We don't have what we need to meet this problem, and the people that we're serving don't have what they need to survive oftentimes. And so it is a difficult balancing act, especially in a strategic planning process, to balance these competing priorities and to recognize the reality of the scarcities that we're dealing with the imagination of where we would potentially be able to go or get in 5 years or in 10 years. And so it's so critically important to this agency's business, and I'm glad that we've had public participation in the process. I'm glad that this has been this is a competitive process for the experts that we hired to help us with this. This has been taken more seriously than any strategic planning process this agency has ever undertaken, and I think that was the top goal, and I think that we have achieved that goal, as well as all the things that flow down from that. And I will not be around for the implementation period of this strategic plan. So just one meeting I want to get through. So I think of this as the biggest mark that I'm going to leave on this agency. And it is a small mark compared to all the people I mentioned who have led us to this point. But there's very few things I will know on a detailed basis in 3 or 4 years about what's happening here. But I will know that we're working off of a strategic plan that prioritized the things that I know you all care about. And so thank you all, because I feel that my role in the process was actually very small. But I do feel that it was one of the more important things that I've done. So, do we have a motion? I said a motion.
If I may, Commissioner Klumpner, I want to get that right this time. Well, I know, and you basically said it, that you're sort of coming to your term over the next year. And you say you may have played a small part. You have played a huge part in who we are as an agency over the years that you've been on our board. And you are always one of the voices in my head. That is the case with every one of our commissioners that sits around this table. And I have no doubt in my mind that you will be watching these meetings. And that you will be texting me during these meetings. And that you will be calling me afterwards to say, hey, can we do this too? I know that you lead with your values. And that you bring also a lot of expertise and thoughtfulness to this work. So you may not sit in this seat a year from now, but I have no doubt you will be a part of who we are in the future, and you will still be one of our supporters.
Did I hear a motion? Commissioner Hester? Commissioner Jackson? Second? Second by Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Good. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Joy, and everyone else not at this board who participated. Our next item is item 104, the informational workshop about the voluntary furlough pilot program. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Our President and CEO, Lisa Jones, will introduce this item. Please begin when you're ready.
All right. During our annual budget discussions with you several months ago, and during updates since and today, we have talked about the financial challenges we're facing as an agency. The current federal government shutdown is just the most recent example of the kind of unprecedented uncertainty and impacts affecting us as an agency, as well as other public housing authorities and public service agencies who rely on federal funding across the country. This uncertainty, combined with the limitations in our existing federal funding amid rising costs in recent years, requires us to explore a variety of measures to support financial stability for our agency long-term. The strategic plan presented to you a moment ago includes initiatives to contain costs and to generate revenue. Our goal remains to thoughtfully navigate these challenges in a way that sustains the San Diego Housing Commission in the years ahead so we can continue to assist the families who need us. One of the steps we are taking to help reduce costs is the voluntary furlough program. Voluntary furlough pilot program that you will be hearing about in today's workshop. It is designed to offer flexibility to our staff, allowing them to make choices that fit their individual circumstances, while also helping the agency achieve necessary cost savings. I want to emphasize that this program is voluntary. We are not requiring any staff to take any furlough at this time. The savings we realize through this pilot program will help in our efforts to build a more sustainable future and inform our planning for the years ahead. I am grateful for the dedication and resiliency of our team and for the trust you place in us as we move forward. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Jeff and Lizette, who will walk us through the details of the voluntary furlough pilot program and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, Commissioners. In response to the fiscal environment that we are facing, our executive team began meeting in April to begin analyzing various options for cost containment and revenue generation to ensure the agency's long-term sustainability. The voluntary furlough pilot program emerged from those discussions as an option that we are implementing at this time. It is one small part of broader resiliency efforts. I'll ask Lizette now to walk us through a few key elements of the program.
As Lisa noted, the program is voluntary. It's significantly different from a mandatory furlough program as noted on this slide. In our voluntary furlough program, the employee makes the choice about whether they want to take unpaid time off. It's flexible, optional, and designed to preserve employee benefits and job status. Voluntary furlough is essentially like an unpaid vacation. The voluntary furlough pilot program is open to all full-time benefited employees. Service Employees International Union Local 221 has expressed that it would like for its members to be eligible for the program as well. So this program is being offered for both represented and non-represented employees. Participants can take up to 160 hours of unpaid leave per year, but their time off can occur only in full workweek increments. Staff benefits and job status remain intact, and key program features are listed on the screen and include but are not limited to no changes to seniority, step increases, or the accrual of paid time off.
This program provides meaningful benefits, giving staff greater flexibility while helping the agency achieve cost savings. As a pilot program, any savings realized this fiscal year will help establish baseline projections for cost savings in future years. The initial period for employees to decide whether to participate in this program is from today through October 30th, and this deadline applies to those who want to spread out their payroll deductions over multiple pay periods. After July 30th, employees may still participate. However, their unpaid time off will be applied in full on the pay period in which the furlough is taken. We carefully consider the parameters of this program to achieve cost savings while maintaining flexibility for our staff and providing strong customer service to our clients. The savings to be achieved through this program are relatively modest in light of the broader fiscal challenges we have discussed. However, we are confident that this program is a worthwhile measure in the current fiscal environment. Again, the voluntary furlough pilot program is one step in our continuing efforts to address our fiscal challenges amid the uncertainties that Lisa highlighted earlier. Thank you, and this concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have any commissioner questions or comments? Commissioner Jackson.
One quick question. What kind of percentage are we looking at numbers-wise? Do you think the employees will participate in this? 5%, 10%? Just kind of a baseline number? What are you looking at?
Yeah, that's a great question. However, I don't have really an answer for you. We're going to have to see in the upcoming months what the rate of participation is in the program, and then we'll be able to start forecasting for future budgets.
Hi, Jeff. I wanted to just acknowledge that the union of the represented employees have agreed and worked through all of the steps in which this criteria have been created, yes?
I'm not surprised that that question comes from you. That's a great question. We did have a very productive meeting last week with the union. It was about a 2-hour meeting that we went through a lot of their concerns, and I think we came to a mutual understanding. However, there are some things that we're still ironing out with them. We received a few requested changes to some language yesterday afternoon, and we will be responding to that. But we are confident we'll be able to come to an agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that. I'm now old enough that I worked in both state and local government during the Great Recession, and I vividly remember lots of mandatory furloughs across many agencies that ended up being done with, the legally minimum required engagement of the employees in their bargaining units. And that's kind of the worst way that budget crunches can get handled, both for the employees and for the public. And so, as much as, we hope that these things become unnecessary programs or options, I'm very appreciative that we are thinking proactively about how we will manage potential budget shortfalls with the smallest impact to both our employees and the people that they serve, and that the employees are having the opportunity to participate in this discussion and planning rather than getting surprised down the road when we are up against a wall. So thank you very much, and I have nothing to offer to that. This is an informational item only, so if there's no other commissioner questions or comments, no motion is required. The next item is 105. This is an informational work. For some legal and quorum purposes, we need to now go into closed session. We have one item. I'm sorry, Josh, for holding you for the entire meeting and then bumping you at the end. We need to have a closed session discussion and action before we take up the last item. So the board will be meeting in closed session today. Before the board goes into closed session, we will receive public comments. I will now ask General Counsel Chuck Christensen to please announce the closed session agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The San Diego Housing Commission will now meet in closed session to discuss its closed session agenda, Roman numeral 4A, which is the discussion of initiation of litigation. That will be all that will be discussed in closed session.
No speaker slips have been submitted for the closed session. So this concludes the public comment period. We will wait a moment to clear the room, and then we will begin closed session.
We got public here.
Okay.
Let me know when you want me to do my piece.
Okay, Chuck, go for it.
Okay. The commission met in closed session and gave directions to council. That include concerning the initiation of litigation. That concludes the matters that were discussed.
This is Ryan Klempner, Vice Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. The board has concluded its closed session and is reconvening an open session at 11:27. Chuck, do you want to say the same thing you just said again, or do we not need to?
I'd ask that my last statement be included in the minutes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I announced at the beginning of the closed session that we would be taking up 105 at the end. During the closed session, we ran out of time with certain commissioners, and we did not, even though it's an informational item, we didn't want to do the informational item with only Commissioner Jackson and me here and have everyone else miss it. So I'm sorry to all of you who waited, especially the guests that we were going to have presenting with us, but we are going to have to take up that item next month in order for the rest of the board to be able to participate in that discussion. So I'm sorry, Joy, and anybody else that was waiting to speak on that. We will have an opportunity for you next month, and we look forward to having an unrushed discussion about our homelessness strategies. Thank you. This concludes the board's meeting today. The meeting is adjourned at 11:28 a.m. Thank you all for participating.